The ghost horse that defeated 30 cowboys, but bowed to a tiny woman. Out on the scorched plains sounds of Texas, where the wind cut like sandpaper and the sun baked the earth red, folks whispered about a cursed creature, a horse named Blackfire, wild, savage, eyes burning like the flames of hell itself. 30 cowboys had tried to break him. 30 had failed. Some left with shattered bones. Some never walked again. Some rode off haunted, never daring to throw a leg over a saddle again. They said Blackfire wasn't born to be ridden. He was born to kill. His master, Elias Ward, rich as sin and twice as cold, hung up a mighty prize for anyone who could tame the beast. Yet none had claimed it. Then one blistering day, from the shrieking iron train, it wasn't a broad-shouldered cowboy who stepped off. It was a woman, a mail-order bride, no taller than Ward's shoulder. Her name was Anna Doyle. No one believed. No one cared. But the moment Anna stood before Blackfire, the jeers died in men's throats, with nothing more than a breath, a whisper. The demon horse froze, and from that instant, a tale stranger than fiction began. Texas heat lay heavy across the land, hammering down on red dust fields. Out here, legends were as common as gun smoke, and none loomed darker than the horse they called Blackfire. Some named him the Devil's Shadow. Others called him the Ghost Horse. But across Elias Ward's sprawling ranch, he bore one name alone: Blackfire. He wasn't just mean. He was born of fury. Coat black as coal, eyes glowing like burning coals gone mad. Folks said the sound of his hooves could chill a man's blood. 30 cowboys had entered his pen. 30 had been carried out broken, arms snapped, backs split, some carried to their graves. And still Blackfire screamed inside his splintered wooden corral, rattling the boards every time he threw his weight against them. His master, Elias Ward, the wealthiest man for 100 miles, was as unyielding as the land itself. Gold, land, cattle, men, he had it all. What he wanted was glory. He posted a reward, fame and fortune to whoever could break Blackfire. But each failure only made the challenge smell more like a death sentence. In town, men muttered, "That horse ain't meant to be ridden. He was born to kill." Some swore his eyes carried the souls of those crushed beneath his iron hooves. But Elias saw something else. To him, Blackfire was no curse. He was a measure of worth, a living trial no man had yet conquered. And until someone did, the horse's screams would be the war drum echoing across Texas. That noon, the heat shimmered like fire waves over the saloon. Cowboys drank hard liquor and laughed louder at the fools who'd been thrown. From the stables came the familiar chaos: screams, cracks of timber, the pounding of hooves on dry earth. Someone spat out a question. "What'll you do, Ward, when no man's left fool enough to try?" Elias narrowed his eyes, jaw cut from stone. "There's always another fool. Always." So the challenge hung in the air, black as storm clouds that refused to break. Blackfire roared in his pen, fire-eyed, a monster daring the world to step up. No one knew the next challenger was already on her way. The afternoon train screamed into the station, metal grinding, smoke curling high. Folks gathered for the show. Something new, anything to break the endless monotony of dust, sweat, and horse stench. The door swung wide. Passengers spilled out, none worth a glance, until a small figure stepped onto the platform. Anna Doyle. Her cotton dress, once white, had long since faded. She clutched a worn cloth bag, hands calloused, eyes deep and steady. No sparkle of girlish innocence, only the weight of storms already weathered. Men felt unease beneath her gaze, though they couldn't say why. From the saloon, whistles and howls rang out. "That Ward's mail-order bride? Hell, Blackfire'll laugh himself dead before she even touches the reins." Laughter cut sharp, but Anna never flinched. She didn't glance their way. She just walked through the dust with the calm of someone who'd long stopped caring what the world thought. At the edge of the platform stood Elias Ward, broad-shouldered, eyes sharp as blades, no flowers in hand, no warmth in his stare. Arms folded, he studied her with a mix of irritation and something he couldn't place. This was not the woman he'd imagined when he put ink to paper. Anna stopped before him, voice low but steady. "You're Elias Ward?" His jaw flexed. He nodded once. "Didn't think you'd actually come." Her eyes drifted past him, toward the distant stable where Blackfire thundered and screamed at the sky. Her words were almost a murmur. "I didn't think so either. But some things a body has to face." The crowd hushed. The woman didn't tremble. Not even when Blackfire slammed the fence with such force the ground itself shook. Dust rose. Men stumbled back. Anna stood rooted, eyes locked on the beast. And then Blackfire hurled himself against the rails, teeth bared, rage enough to tear the world apart. Men cursed, some fled. But Anna, she closed her eyes. Lips moved, whispering something too soft to catch, something like a prayer. And then, the impossible. Blackfire froze, his hellfire eyes fixed on her. Breath ragged, he tossed his mane, then stepped back. Just one step, but enough to silence the world. Not one man believed what he'd seen. 30 cowboys had been broken. Yet with a breath and a whisper, this woman had made the devil horse falter. Even Elias couldn't mask the shock in his face. The platform lay quiet. Hot wind rolled dust across their boots. And in that silence, every soul there understood. This town was about to witness a story like no other. If it were you standing there, whose side would you take? A. Elias Ward, the cold-hearted master, brimming with doubt. B. Anna Doyle, the small woman, with unshakable resolve. Or would you choose another path? Drop a comment below so I know you're still riding with this tale. From the day Anna Doyle set foot on the ranch, she wasn't seen as a wife, nor even a guest. In Elias Ward's eyes, she was nothing more than a hired hand bought with ink and paper. Cooking, cleaning, washing, that was her place. Nothing more, nothing less. Elias never believed a woman could stand before a beast like Blackfire. He'd watched 30 strong men crawl away broken, bones shattered, skulls split. He'd paid the hospital bills, the undertaker's fees, and faced the tears of widows. And now some slight, quiet woman wanted to step into a place soaked with men's blood and crushed pride. The very thought was madness. But that morning, with the sun just breaking the horizon, Anna stepped into the yard. Her cotton dress was worn thin, her hands black with soot from the stove. Yet her gaze wasn't on the house. It was fixed on the wooden corral where Blackfire circled like a devil bound in chains, eyes burning, scream ripping the heavy summer air. "Elias." Her voice was calm, almost casual, as if asking for another jug of water. "I want to stand near him." Elias looked up from his porch, coffee still steaming in his hand. For a second, he thought he'd misheard. But then he caught her eyes. Steady, unblinking, carrying a steel that told him she wasn't joking. The cup hit the table hard as Elias shot to his feet, voice booming like thunder. "You lost your damn mind? 30 men, bigger, stronger than me, crawled out of there on their bellies. You want to die?" The air hung heavy. Wind swept through the porch, carrying the dry scent of hay and dust. But Anna didn't flinch. She stood tall, fingers tightening against the fabric of her dress. Her reply cut through him like a blade. "I've already died 100 times inside. There's nothing left to lose." It wasn't a dare. It wasn't a plea. Just plain words, flat and heavy, like a stone dropped into an empty well. In her eyes, Elias saw something he didn't want to face. A nameless grief, a depth where fear had already drowned. For a heartbeat, Elias had no answer. Part of him wanted to roar, forbid her from going near Blackfire. Another part was caught, drawn to that gaze. Not the gaze of a reckless fool, but of someone who'd walked through hell and found her way back. From the corral came Blackfire's scream, shaking the ground beneath their boots. The beast pawed the dirt, mane whipping, eyes blazing, and for one raw second, its gaze met Anna's. Something unseen passed between them, two creatures carrying wounds the world couldn't see. Elias felt it. Though he'd never admit it, he knew. His anger remained, but beneath it rose something worse. Fear. Not fear of Blackfire, but fear of watching another soul crushed before his eyes. From that day on, every dawn before the dew burned off the grass, Anna stood before the corral. No whip. No reins. Not even stepping too close. Just there. Silent. Unmoving. Her eyes locked with the beast's. And Blackfire never wasted a chance to prove his fury. He screamed, pawed the earth, sent dust into the air like smoke from a battlefield. More than once he hurled himself into the rails, making the whole pen shudder. But Anna held her ground, never flinching, never fleeing. At times, she only tilted her head, as though hearing a sound only she could hear. Day after day, it went on. At first, Elias watched with nothing but scorn and rising anger. To him, she was just a fool tempting death. But little by little, her quiet patience unsettled him. Blackfire, the horse that had made 30 men tremble, did not crash against her the way he had with the others. He roared, yes, but at times, he stopped. Hesitated, as if her stillness itself was breaking something inside him. Elias didn't want to believe it, but he couldn't look away. Each evening, instead of sleeping sound on the porch, he found his eyes following that small figure standing by the stall, silent as stone. Curiosity gnawed at him. Unease, too. Then one moonless night, with wind cutting sharp across the land, Elias passed near the corral and stopped dead. By the dim glow of a lantern, he saw Anna, not standing tall as always, but sitting low in the shadows, shoulders trembling, breath caught in sobs she tried to smother. For the first time, Elias saw the armor she wore by day crack apart. She bowed her head, lifting the hem of her dress. Elias froze. Beneath the faded cloth lay scars, long, raised, angry welts carved deep across her skin. Marks left by a lash, years old but etched forever. Proof of pain no man had the right to inflict, but had. In that moment, Elias understood. He knew why she dared face Blackfire, why she saw in the horse what no one else could, because they were the same. One beaten with the whip on her flesh, one beaten with the whip on his hide. Both turned into monsters by someone else's cruelty. Elias's fists clenched, chest heavy as iron. He wanted to step forward, to speak, but his boots wouldn't move. He stood rooted, the only sounds the wind through the rails and Anna's broken sobs. From that night, Elias no longer looked at her with suspicion. Instead, a question burned inside him. Quiet, relentless. Could this woman be the key to Blackfire's freedom and his own? If you were in this moment, whose side would you take? Elias Ward, the cold master, shaken for the first time. B. Anna Doyle, the woman bearing scars inside and out. Or would you choose another path? Drop your choice below so I know you're still riding with this tale. Dawn bled over Texas in shades of pale red, like blood spilled thin across sand. The air was dry, heavy with the stink of dust and horse sweat. Before the weathered corral, Anna Doyle stood, as always, small in frame, unshaken in gaze. No whip, no reins, just her, still as stone, where Blackfire could see her. The black demon screamed and stamped as he always did, mane thrashing, hooves pounding the earth, sending clouds of grit spinning. Ranch hands lingered at a distance, muttering, shaking their heads. They'd seen this too many times. To them, it was only a matter of time before the woman was crushed beneath iron hooves. But that morning was different. Blackfire didn't smash the rails. He didn't lunge, instead his head dipped. His ears twitched. He stared at Anna, not with the fire of slaughter, but with hesitation. Something none had ever seen. From the porch, Elias Ward's eyes narrowed, every muscle taut. Anna didn't move closer, didn't reach out. She only breathed steady, lips parting in a faint tune, soft as a lullaby. And then the impossible. Blackfire stepped forward. The whole yard froze. Ranch hands held their breath. Elias's grip crushed against the porch rail. Another step. Each hoof fall like a drumbeat. The gap closed to nothing but a few paces. Elias's heart thundered, mind filled with the memory of 30 men hurled like ragdolls, bones snapping on hard dirt. But Anna didn't falter. Her eyes blurred, not with fear, but with tears. Then, slow as the breaking of dawn, Blackfire lowered his head and pressed his muzzle against her shoulder. Just a brush, no more. But it was enough to shatter the world. Elias's jaw dropped. For years, every rope, every whip, every strong-backed man had failed. Yet here stood a slight woman, touched by the beast the whole territory swore was untouchable. A tear slid down Anna's cheek. Her voice broke like a confession. They told me I had to submit, but all I ever wanted was to be seen. Elias heard every word, and it struck him like a knife to the chest. That wasn't meant for the horse alone. It was for him. For all of them. For a world that demanded the weak kneel, that mistook obedience for worth. He couldn't breathe. For the first time, Anna wasn't just a mail-order bride. She was something else. A mystery that forced him to see his own reflection in her truth. And something new stirred inside Elias. Something he'd long thought dead. Blackfire stepped back. No more rage. No more screams. Just watching Anna, eyes locked as if she were a memory he'd lost. The yard stayed silent, and Elias knew everything had changed. Not just for the horse, for him too. By nightfall, the story burned through Texas like dry brush caught in wind. In the saloon, in the fields, on the trail, men argued. Some called it a miracle. Others said the beast was worn thin from days of screaming. But most, especially the cowboys who'd failed, refused to swallow the truth. One of them was Jonas. The cowboy Blackfire had once hurled so far, he cracked his collarbone. His face was twisted by old pain and fresher shame. Every time he saw Anna step quiet toward the corral, his eyes darkened with venom. One evening at the saloon, whiskey thick on tonkan, his breath, Jonas spat his bitterness before a circle of ranch hands. You fools believe this? That a frail slip of a woman tamed Blackfire? It's a trick, that's all. She's playing ward, bleeding him for gold. A woman off some train, you think she came here for anything but money? The room hushed. Then came the snickers, the nods, the fists slapping tables. His poison spread, seeping into whispers that crept back to the ranch. Anna felt it soon enough. The stares, the smirks, the hushed voices at her back. She bore it in silence, but Elias saw the weight in her eyes, like storm clouds pressing against a sky too dry to break. And then chaos. At dawn, shouts tore through the yard. The corral door was wide open. Blackfire was free, roaring like a storm from hell. Mane flared, eyes burning, hooves ripping the ground as men scattered, tumbling in the dust. Panic seized the ranch. The blame came quick, sharp as knives. It's her! She wanted to prove herself. She let him out. Anna stood frozen, the mob's fury slicing into her before she could speak a word. But from the porch, Elias saw what the others didn't. The lock wasn't picked clean. It was smashed crude, with heavy, careless hands. Not the work of Anna Doyle. The image of Jonas's twisted, hate-filled eyes from the night before flashed through Elias's mind. He said nothing. Let the shouts rise. Let Anna stand in silence against their fury. But in his chest, he already knew the truth. And when his eyes found Jonas, feigning panic in the dust, Elias's fists clenched white. If you were here, whose side would you take? Elias Ward, the man who saw the truth but kept his silence. B. Anna Doyle, the woman accused, standing alone in her innocence. Or would you choose another path? Tell me in the comments, so I know you're still riding with this tale. That year's fair sprawled across the edge of town, tents and stalls rising from the red dust fields where hoofprints never faded. Drums pounded, whiskey poured like a river, and half of Texas gathered, buying, selling, and chasing distraction from the drought. But all eyes, every last one, were fixed not on the knife-throwing games or the roaring saloon tents. They were fixed on a woman and a horse. Lawson came like a storm wind, tall, broad, leather coat dark as oil, and a smirk that never left his face. Folks called him the breaker of wild stock. Not by patience, not by trust, but by whip, by boot, by pounding a beast until its spirit snapped. His name drew fear from some, admiration from others. Every horse that went under his lash came out bent, beaten, obedient. When Lawson heard tell of Anna Doyle, the woman who'd stood with Blackfire, who'd felt his muzzle touch her shoulder, he laughed loud, jagged through yellow teeth. "Elias Ward," he roared, voice carrying over the crowd. "I challenge you. Bring out that devil horse. If this woman can stay on his back for 5 minutes, I'll pay enough gold to buy your northern lands outright. But if she falls..." His gaze slid over Anna, filthy with promise. "She comes with me, my apprentice, and I'll show you all what it means to truly break a beast." The fairground erupted. Shouts, whistles, drunken laughter. Some jeered, some thrilled, all hungry for blood. Elias stood rigid, fists tight enough to crack bone. The thought of Anna in Lawson's hands burned through his chest. He wanted to roar his refusal, to end it there. But before he could speak, Anna's voice rang out, calm, clear, steady. "I accept." The crowd went silent, then howled again like wolves that had caught scent of blood. Elias whipped toward her, fury in his eyes. "You don't have to. He just wants to humiliate you, turn you into a spectacle." But Anna's gaze wasn't on Lawson. It wasn't even on Elias. Her dark eyes were locked on Blackfire, dragged into the ring, his black coat slick with sweat, breath hissing like smoke from a forge. Her words were low, resolute, not for the men, but for the beast itself. "I'm not proving myself to him. I'm proving myself to Blackfire." Elias froze. In that moment, he saw the truth. This wasn't about Lawson's bet. It wasn't about pride or gold. It was about the fragile bond she'd spun with the wild horse. And bonds like that, once denied, never came again. The crowd pressed close. Coins clinked, bets shouted. And when the iron gate screeched open, Destiny stepped into the dust with Anna Doyle. The arena thundered with cheers. Blackfire burst forth, dragging thick ropes and tossing aside the cowboys who clung to them. His scream tore the air, eyes blazing red, muscles rolling beneath his dark hide. He hurled 2 men to the ground, sending the onlookers into fits of cruel laughter. Everyone believed the same thing. When the woman touched his back, it would end in blood. Anna walked forward, her dress plain, hair tied back, steps slow and steady. No whip, no saddle, just silence that settled over the fairground like a heavy shroud. Elias watched from the edge, palms slick, chest aching as though gripped by iron hands. The gate clanged. Blackfire reared, hooves striking earth like thunder. Dust choked the air. Shouts rattled the stands. Anna lifted her hand, touched his mane, and in one clean motion swung herself onto his back. The devil horse exploded. He bucked, twisted, spine arched like a drawn bow. He spun, kicked, lunged skyward. But Anna didn't fight him. She didn't clutch or wrench. She moved with him, bending like grass in storm winds, swaying like waves against his fury. Her lips parted, and a song slipped free, low, haunting, a sound meant for no one but the beast beneath her. 1 minute. 2. The crowd's jeers faltered. Laughter died. Men leaned forward silent, breath caught. Blackfire still raged, but each leap grew slower, each scream more ragged. 3 minutes. 4. Elias's heart pounded like a drum of war, each second an eternity. At the 5th minute, the breaking point, Blackfire staggered, knees buckling, his neck lowered, steam rising off him in clouds. The fire in his eyes dimmed, replaced by something softer, something closer to surrender. Anna laid her hand on his neck, whispering, "It's all right. I'm here." The fairground fell silent. Hundreds of men who believed only in lash and force, stood dumbstruck. They saw not a horse broken by fear, but a creature calmed by being understood. And then, chaos. From the corner of the ring came a hiss. A rattler slid into the open, scales glinting under the sun. Blackfire jolted, rage igniting once more. He reared, shrieking, then launched forward, straight toward the stands where Lawson grinned, smug and waiting. The crowd screamed, men scattered. Lawson froze, face drained pale as the horse bore down on him. But Anna leapt clear. She landed before Blackfire, voice like steel slicing through the panic. "Blackfire, look at me!" The stallion's hooves smashed dirt an inch from Lawson's chest. His scream curdled into silence. But in that last heartbeat, Blackfire's eyes met Anna's, and the fire ebbed. The beast shuddered, snorted, then lowered his head. A step back, another breath. The storm passed. The fairground was graveyard still. No cheers, no jeers. For the first time they had seen the impossible. A woman stand before death itself, and turn it aside with nothing but trust. If you were there, whose side would you take? A. Elias Ward, the man who finally felt fear of losing what mattered most. B. Anna Doyle, the woman who stood between death and the devil's hooves. Or would you choose another path? Leave your choice in the dust below, so I know you're still riding with this tale. The night after the fair, the ranch lay under an eerie silence. The shouts, the pounding hooves, the gasps of the crowd, all had burned away into the dark. Only the wind remained, whistling through the cracks of old wooden doors. On the porch, a lantern flickered weak light across the tall frame of Elias Ward, his shoulders bearing the weight of the whole world. He sat there, still, eyes fixed on the fields where Blackfire grazed in uncommon peace. The door creaked. Anna Doyle stepped out, dress dust-stained, hair loose from a long day. Yet her eyes, those same eyes Elias couldn't escape, steady, fierce, and hiding a sorrow that never quite left. Elias rose, slow steps carrying him to her side. Words caught in his throat, thick as smoke. Then, like a blade striking clean, he let them fall. "Anna, I don't know what to call this, but I know one thing. I don't want to lose you." She flinched, lashes trembling. Her lips pressed tight, no reply. His voice roughened as he went on. "All my years, I've seen the world through cold eyes, but since you came, I've changed. Not because of Blackfire, not because of those damn fools and their wagers, because of you." Silence stretched thin between them. Then Anna lifted her face, fear flashing sharper than joy. She drew a breath, words cutting like glass as they left her. "Elias, I must tell you the truth. I'm not the woman who wrote those letters." Elias froze, eyes shadowing. But Anna pressed on, voice unsteady yet resolute. "It was my sister. She wrote them. She's gone now. The sickness in Missouri took her. I held her hand as the life left her. Afterward, I found your letter in her chest, and I read it, again and again, until I couldn't stop myself. I boarded that train, not to deceive you, but because I needed a place to begin again. I came here, to run from the ashes. The wind shook the lantern, throwing long, bent shadows across the porch. Elias's jaw locked, eyes blazing like a fire ready to leap. Anna lowered her head, bracing for the storm, but no storm came. Elias exhaled, fists clenching then loosening, as though dropping a stone he'd carried for years. His voice came slow, torn, but true. I don't need the woman from that letter. I need the woman who stands before me now, and my heart chooses you. Anna's head rose, tears spilling, not from regret, but from being seen at last, not as a burden, not as a servant, but as herself. That night, in the hush of the prairie, two broken souls touched, and from the fields came Blackfire's cry, not a curse but a song, bearing witness to a truth strong enough to change everything. From that night on, the bond between Elias and Anna shifted. No longer suspicion, no longer cold words, but quiet moments shared, where silence spoke louder than any vow. And Blackfire changed with them. The beast once damned as a demon now shadowed Anna's steps. When she carried water, he walked beside her. When she sat beneath the old tree, he stood watch, still as a sentinel. Folks began to call her something new, the Horse Whisperer. The name spread through town, half reverent, half fearful, as though she carried some spell no one else could touch. But Anna knew better. It wasn't magic. She hadn't broken Blackfire. She had given him what no one else ever had. Freedom. No lash, no chains. And in return, he gave her trust. Trust as fragile, as vital, as breath itself. One night, under a sky black as coal, the dry wind rattling the porch, Anna sat beside Elias. The lantern's glow flickered across his sun-worn face. In his eyes lay a peace he hadn't known before, and a wariness he never let go of. Anna sat long in silence, then drew a deep breath. Her words came quiet, sharp as knives turned inward. There's something else I never told you. Elias turned, his gaze taut. Anna's hands shook, clutching her dress. The day I found your letter, I was desperate. I thought of selling it. If I gave it to someone else, I could buy myself more time. I meant to, Elias. I almost did. The words fell like stones into a well. The air grew heavy, near suffocating, but she pressed on, tears welling. Then I read it again, and again. They weren't like other letters. No empty sweetness, no promises of gold or land. Just words, plain and honest. From a lonely man, hoping for a sliver of peace. So I didn't sell it. I held it close. And I chose that train. A tear traced her cheek. Her voice cracked. That's why I came. Not to hide, but because I believed, with you, I might find a place to begin again. The lantern swayed in the wind, shadows dancing. Elias didn't curse, didn't rage. His roughened hand reached for hers, calloused, heavy but warm. His voice rasped, steady as iron. I don't care what you almost did. What matters is what you chose. You stayed, and from this day on, I won't let you stand alone. Anna bowed her head, silent tears falling. From the fields, Blackfire called out, a short, sharp cry. No longer a devil's curse, but the voice of 3 scarred lives bound together, no longer lost, but finding each other. If you were standing here, whose side would you take? A. Elias Ward, the man who chose to accept the past and open his heart. B. Anna Doyle, the woman who dared confess her faults to seek trust. Or would you choose another path? Leave your choice, so I know you're still riding with this tale. Summer rolled heavy over Texas, sun burning gold across the sky, hot winds sweeping the red dust fields. But that day on Elias Ward's ranch was unlike any day before. No gunfire salutes, no whiskey-soaked banquets, no crowds of fine-dressed guests. Only an old tree, roots deep in hard earth, its green branches casting shade. And beneath its arms, a small ceremony was held. Anna Doyle wore plain white cotton, no lace, no jewels. Her hands trembled faintly, but her eyes shone bright. Beside her, Elias stood in a rough shirt, face weathered by sun and years, gaze softened in a way rare for him. No preacher, no music. Just their vows whispered under the rustle of leaves, with the dry soil crunching underfoot. And behind them, Blackfire stood watch. No halter, no chains. The black horse that had once made men quake now stood still, ears forward, eyes calm, as if blessing the union. Each gust of wind sent his mane flying in rhythm with Anna's simple dress. When Elias laid his calloused hand on Anna's, his voice came low and sure. I won't promise to always be right. I only promise I'll stay, even when wrong finds me. Anna smiled through tears, answering, and I won't promise to always be strong. I only promise when I fall, I'll rise again because of you. Nothing more needed. Their eyes carried vows deeper than words, and when Elias bent to press his lips to her brow, Blackfire let out a long, ringing cry, like a church bell proclaiming a new beginning. There was no feast after, no fireworks, only work. Together, they set their hands to building something new, a place they called Blackfire Sanctuary. It was no fortress, just a roof, for shade, low fences, and open ground. Here, wild horses beaten and broken were given space to heal. Not just horses, but people too. Women fleeing violence, children with fear in their eyes. Anna greeted each soul at the gate with the same gentle smile and the same words, carved into memory of all who heard them. Here we don't break, we listen. Day by day, Blackfire Sanctuary grew. Elias raised fences, planted trees for shade. Anna spent her hours among the horses, or kneeling to meet the eyes of children too frightened to lift their heads. And Blackfire, the beast once damned as cursed, became its emblem. No longer a terror, but living proof that what was shattered could be made whole again. Years passed. The land once cracked and barren grew green with grass. The saplings Elias and Anna had planted stretched tall, branches spread wide, cradling the ranch in shade. Where once Blackfire's screams tore the air, now rang the laughter of children mingling with the whinnies of horses in the afternoon breeze. The sanctuary grew beyond Elias's imagining. Orphaned children wandered in from far towns, eyes hollow, smiles slowly returning under shelter. Women who had escaped cruel hands found safety, their trembling shoulders steadied once more. No one here was forced to erase the past. No one was ordered to forget their scars. They were simply given a place to live, to learn trust again. Anna was its heart. Every day she stood at the gate, welcoming each newcomer with that same warm smile, and her words never changed. Here, we don't break, we listen. Outside, the world stayed hard and hungry, but within those simple fences, a quiet miracle bloomed, and Blackfire, the horse once cursed by Texas tongues, stood as its living symbol. Age caught him, as it does all. His mane, once black fire, streaked silver. His thunderous hooves slowed, but his eyes, once burning with fury, now shone calm, steady, wise. Each evening, a sight touched every heart. A red-haired girl, daughter of Elias and Anna, sitting beside the old horse. She sang in a clear, childish voice the same soft tunes her mother once whispered to soothe him. Blackfire stood close, ears flicking, lowering his aged head to listen, as if passing his last memories into her keeping. On the porch, Elias and Anna sat shoulder to shoulder. Time had marked them with gray and lines, but their smiles were whole. Elias turned to her, still quietly astonished, that a lost letter, a desperate choice, had turned his life into something worth living. Anna leaned against him, eyes on the field where their daughter sang to Blackfire. She whispered, soft as wind, yet sharp enough for his heart. They once called him a curse, but he showed us, nothing is beyond healing. Elias squeezed her hand, rough and warm. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Some truths are better left in silence. The sun bled into the horizon, painting the sanctuary gold. Blackfire let out a low call, part home, farewell, part hymn of rebirth. And in that moment, no one saw the demon of old, only the miracle, that what was once broken, if met with love, could be made whole. Maybe each of us carries a Blackfire inside, scars, wounds, curses whispered by the world. But as Elias and Anna's tale shows, if we are seen, if we are heard, even the darkest parts of us can turn into miracles. If you've borne loss, if you carry memories that won't let go, may this story remind you, healing is never too late. Now tell me, if you were Elias, would you open your heart to Anna? If you were Anna, would you have the courage to confess your truth? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story touched you, hit like, subscribe, and share, so others might find a little hope, a little peace. Thank you for riding with me. May your night be gentle.